Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome to yet another episode on Little Slaw YouTube channel. This is me, your Vasanth Shanmugam. Please do subscribe to our channel Little Slaw, like the video, share the video with your friends, and comment your feedback. Today, let us see the configuration of the Git. In our previous video, we saw about how to install the Git in our Windows machine. In this video, we will see some basic and very important configuration setup. So to start with the configuration, we will have to start with the Git Init. So what is Git Init? Do we need a Git Init to start? So Git Init is one way to start a new project with Git. To start a repository, we can use either the Git Init or Git clone, but not both of them at the same time. And when we initialize a repository, Git creates a hidden directory called .git. And that .git directory stores all of the objects and the references that Git uses and creates as part of our project's history. What happens after we do the Git init? First, Git init initialize the repository. And once we initialize the repository, we can start building our project on top of it. So is running Git init safe? Absolutely. Running Git init in an existing repository is also safe since it will not overwrite things that are already there. So why do we need to run a Git init in an existing repository? The primary reason for rerunning Git init is to pick up newly added templates. So what is the relation between the Git init and the Git clone? Do I need to do a Git init during the Git clone? Because if we clone a project, then we need not do a Git init because Git init is part of the Git clone. So let's now see how to do the Git init in a demo.
So let us now see how to use the Git init. So today we will see about some of the functionalities in setting up the repositories like the Git init, Git config, and Git alias. So let's first start with the Git init. So to start the Git init or to create or to work in the Git, so we'll have to start the Git bash. So let's open the Git bash, which is the command line interface for the Git. So before making any of the Git command, we will have to initiate the Git inside the folder. So before doing that, we will need to find where exactly are we. So to find that, we'll have to use the pwd, which is printing the current working directory. So these are some of the commands which are similar to the Linux commands. So if you want to know more about Linux command, you can see one of my previous videos on the most frequently used Linux commands. So most of the commands like the pwd, the printing working directory, or creating any directory or removing any directory. So all these commands are similar to our Linux commands. So let's now see where exactly are we. So let's now create a folder in our location. Now we are in the C drive, and I will log in into my folder, and we will create a folder here for Git. So to create a folder, we have to type mkdir, that is make directory, and a git folder. And under this git folder, we will create a folder which is little slav. So now to use any of the git command, we will have to initiate. So for example, let me try a git command, which is git commit. So now it will say, or we'll get a message that this is not a git repository. So to make it as a git repository, what we have to do, we'll have to initiate it. So how to initiate it? So to initiate, we have to enter git init. So this will automatically initiate an empty git repository, and it will automatically create a .git file inside the folder. So to see what are all the files we have, we'll have to enter ls. So before that, we'll see where exactly are we. So we are in the, so let's go inside the folder. So you have to go inside the git. So we'll have to go inside our little slav folder, little slav folder. It's not created. Let's create the directory now. Let's move into the little slav folder. And now we are in the master branch. So now we are in the master branch. So to make sure whether everything works fine, let's enter a git commit. And yes, we have initiated our git inside this particular folder, and we are in our master branch. So now we have initiated the git. So let us see some of the other configurations here. So far, initially we have configured the username and the email ID. So there are few more configurations.
So far, we have covered the basics of how Git has got initialized using the Git command. Now let us see about the Git configuration. In our previous video, we saw about the very basic Git configurations like the username and the email. Now let us see some more configuration to do in the Git. The configuration options recognized by Git fall into two basic categories. One is the client side and the other one is the server side. By default, Git uses whatever we have set as the default text editor via one of the shell environment variable, that is either through the visual or the editor. So to set the editor, we have to use the core.editor configuration settings, and we can choose the editor which we want to set as the default editor. We can also choose the diff file or the diff configuration to find the differences while we do any merge using Git. We also have options to set up the colors in Git. Since Git fully supports colored terminal output, and this facility greatly aids the visually parsing command output, which helps to understand or to recognize the code quickly and easily. There are a lot of options that helps to set the coloring to our preferences, and to do that you'll have to enter git config global color.ui, and the color which we require we can choose and we can set it up based on our requirement. Now let us see how to set up the editor and the difference tool.
The basic configuration after the username and the email, we have the configuration editor. That is the editor that we are going to use. So by default, if you remember, we have selected the Vim as the editor. So let us now see. So to see what are all the configurations we have, we'll have to type git config -- list will give us the list of configurations we have. So let's go through them. So here we can see the username, the email, and the core editor as Vim, since it was the default one. And now if we want to make any change in the editor, say for example, if I want to change the editor to autumn, so how to change the editor in the configuration? So to do that, we have to type git config -- let me clear it before we go. So I'll do as git config global core.editor -- So this will actually change the editor from the one that we have previously set up. But to confirm that, we have to do the git config list. And now we can see here the editor as autumn weight. So let us change it now to Vim again and see how does it work. So to do that, it is again git config global core.editor and Vim. So let's now check how this Vim works. So to do that, we have to type Vim and doc1. So this will take us to the Vim editor. And to exit from the editor, we'll have to type escape WQ. Sorry, it's escape : WQ. So this will quit the editor and will take us to the terminal screen. There are few more configurations we have, and we have one more tool that is an important tool whenever we face any conflict during the merge. We have various third-party tools as well for doing the configuration. So before we do any merge, we'll have to find the differences between the two code that we are merging or whatever is creating the conflict. So we have various third-party tools that help us to find the resolution. So to do that, we'll have to type git. Let me clear it once. So it has to be git config global merge.pool a div tree. This actually works as the best merge tool, and we have configured that as well. And there are various other colored configurations which are not of a high priority now. So we can actually skip that for now, and we can go to alias.
Let's now see about the Git alias. So before we see what is the use of Git alias, let us see what is a Git alias. A Git alias is a term associated with shortcuts in Git. And this Git alias helps us in compressing the longer sequence of commands to a shorter sequence. So why do we really need a Git alias? These Git alias are a powerful workflow tool that creates shortcuts to frequently used Git commands. So by using the Git aliases will make us work faster and make us a more efficient developers. These aliases can be used to wrap a sequence of Git commands into a new Fox Git command. Okay, so now we have defined the Git alias. So where do they store or where are they get defined? So whatever the Git aliases that we create are often stored as per the user's configuration at the .git config. We can also manually set aliases. So now let us see how to set the Git alias for various Git commands.
That's the final part in setting up the repository. So we can actually create this alias again to the same level of or the same set of commands. Let us say, for example, if I want to create an alias for the checkout, I have to enter git config global alias dot co, which is the alias of checkout. So when I click enter, the alias has got created, and same for any alias that we want to create. Say, for example, if I want to create another alias for branch, so to find the branch, git global, git config global alias br and branch will create the alias for branch. So now I do not want to enter git branch, instead I can enter git br. So this will tell me the branch which I'm in. But again, there is one more thing, as we have already told. So this alias will not override the default one. So this is actually an additional way to speed up the activity, and it does not override our default value that we have, which are set up in the Git. So with that, we come to an end. So far we have seen up some of the functionalities in setting up the configuration. So we have started up with the Git init, and before that we have created a directory, and inside the directory we have initiated the Git, and then we have set up the editor, and we have set up the merge tool as well, and finally we have set up some alias, and we have found out how to set up the alias. I think this video would be very useful to you. We will meet in another interesting video in our next session. Until then, it's bye-bye from Vasanth and Little Slav.